Welcome back, everyone, to this session of Getting to Know Your Vikings. And two of our Vikings that are joining us here today have a long and traditional history back with the Long Beach City College Athletics Department. John Fylpaa and Chuck McFerrin are with us today. John, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your path growing up and how you ended up being at Long Beach City College.
Wow. Well, my path to Long Beach City College was basically walking down the street. I grew up on the corner of Wardlow and Clark in the mid-50s when my folks, as a baby boomer, bought a brand new home for that overinflated price of $8,100. And I actually walked and played on the playground at LAC as a child. I actually sold peanuts in the Veterans Stadium as a 10-year-old for all the events and football games there, including the Milk Bowl. So I've known that college since I was a very young boy, and it's almost like it was destined. But I'm a Long Beach boy, born and raised in Long Beach. Went to Carver, Marshall, Millikan High School, Long Beach City College for 2 years, got an AA there. Ended up going on to Cal State Long Beach for a master's degree. I thought I was going to be a business major. And when I came out of the service, I converted that business degree to business education. So I taught it 5 years at Poly High School as my first assignment back in 1971, actually, is when I started. And then I came over to Jordan High School as then a quasi-administrator, activities director. And that's where Chuck and I first met each other. Chuck was a baseball coach there in 1975 and 6. And from there, I spent 3 years as an administrator there, applied for a position at Long Beach City College teaching marketing and management. Didn't get the job. The next year, though, I did in a different capacity. Came over using some of those student activity advisor skills and became the advisor to the ASB government. So I worked for 11 years as the advisor to the student body, whose budget funded athletics, so got very connected with the athletic directors there at that time, talking about the funds that were available and trying to help them out and with special needs. And after 11 years of that, became the Dean of Student Affairs, where my responsibilities expanded a little bit to things like health services, senior center, still had athletics, the clubs and programs, handled campus discipline for 16 years, which actually was an enjoyable experience. And then I did an interim assignment as Vice President of Student Services for almost 2 years. And at the end of that run, I learned a lot about how athletics was or was not being supported financially. At that point in time, the classroom portion, the educational side, was under a different dean. It was a dean of English. And as the VP, I learned a little disconnect there because they were thinking more about athletics than they were thinking about the educational aspect that goes along with kinesiology. And so I was asked to remain as vice president, but I said, no, I miss the kids. I miss being around them on a daily basis. So I worked with the then president, who was Jan Kehoe, and we reconfigured the position. We created a position of dean of then physical education and athletics. So now we had access to some of the educational funds that we didn't otherwise, and it allowed me to bring a few things in that didn't exist before, and the wonderful opportunity to work with all the coaches and athletes over the years. So that was kind of my path getting there, and still connected in a few ways too. Still working with the college on with the foundation, trying to raise funds for all areas of the campus. So that's kind of how I got there.
When did you retire from Long Beach City College?
You know, it's hard to believe, but it's been 9 years ago next month.
Wow.
So I retired in 2011, and my total years in education ended up being a little over 40.
Wow. Chuck, I didn't realize that your path crossed with John's. It was Jordan High School. So Chuck, tell us a little bit about your journey to Long Beach City College.
Well, I think probably started when I finished going to Cal. I came down to Cal State Long Beach to get a teaching credential. and student teaching opportunity came up at Jordan High School. So I went up to Jordan to do my student teaching, and then the principal there, as soon as I was finished with all my schoolwork, offered me a position at Jordan. And so I was there for 12 years, taught social studies, and I actually coached sophomore football and a little C basketball that everybody wants to forget, including me, and coached the varsity baseball team. And then in 76, and then that's when John and I were together, 75 and 76, we had a nice working relationship, and we got a chance to go to the CIF championship, played Lakewood at Anaheim Stadium for the championship. And I'm not going to tell you the score. So it was a great game. It was a great game.
Almost.
Yeah, real close, real good. And so then I left Jordan and I went to Milliken as an activities director. So I was in charge of a whole bunch of other stuff. Instead of sports, I was in charge of cheerleaders and, clubs and student government and assemblies and that kind of stuff, which John had done the same thing at Jordan. So we've had that commonality. And then I was there for 5 years and had an opportunity to get on at Long Beach City College, and came on there kind of in the same area as the Associated Men's Students Advisor, which is kind of the city college fraternity plan without all the fraternity national stuff. It's a club program. Did that for 5 years, and then Bob Myers was leaving as the men's athletic director. So I got asked to come over and take that position. And that was in 1989. And I did that through year 2002. So, it was a great experience. John was a big part of that great experience. Wells Sloniger, who had a great athletic background as a basketball player at USC. He certainly related to the value of athletics in college, junior college. And it was just a real good run.
Terrific. John, you've mentioned, that you've been retired 9 years, and I know you're past president of the Long Beach Century Club. One of the great things that I've really appreciated about you is how you have stayed involved in the community, not just Long Beach City College, but also in our community here in Long Beach. Tell us a little bit about some of your involvement.
It's kind of you to say, Bill. I appreciate that. I tell people I sleep in Fountain Valley, but I live in Long Beach. And I think it has everything to do with my roots. I love that city so much, and I do stay involved. The only thing I do outside of Long Beach, Sandy and I do Meals on Wheels in the city of Huntington Beach. But in Long Beach, I'm still involved in Century Club, still serve on the board. Matter of fact, just a couple days ago, Keith Hansen and I went around to all the middle schools who had received our sports banquet awards and dropped off the trophies and plaques because the kids couldn't come to the banquet. So still involved with Century Club, trying to raise money for them. I continue to serve on the Long Beach City College Foundation Executive Committee. And there's a big campaign coming up we hope the athletic area will benefit from. Ideally, they're going to bring in, the concept is to endow areas of the college now. It's going to be over a $40 million campaign to try and raise funds in the next number of years, specifically to support different areas of the campus with endowments. So ongoing funding will come out of those monies that are invested. And then last, I've served on the LBS Financial Credit Union, used to be Long Beach Schools Federal Credit Union. I just started as chairman of the board for my second term there on the credit union. So we meet monthly and try and keep everybody's investments and money solid. And we just had a board meeting last night, and we're doing it telephonically. We haven't gotten to the Zoom stage yet, but I hope we do. But anyway, it's just a great city, and because of that, I've been blessed to meet a lot of wonderful people in the city on some of these boards and do some networking on behalf of the college.
Well, I think you've always been involved in those kinds of activities, and it seems like your emphasis has just changed a little bit when you retired from Long Beach City College. So congratulations on all that you continue to do.
Work is hard. I just don't get paid for it now.
Chuck, as you know, I've had a son who played Division I football and quarterbacked at Stanford. One of the great joys in my life has been to watch you officiate some of those games. You've had such a long and illustrious career as a football official. And about the best compliment I could ever give an official, and certainly one who's a head referee like you have been for so many years, was that you went pretty much unnoticed in a game. It's good when an official doesn't get noticed for either making bad calls or tries to go ahead and be flamboyant out on the field. Tell us a little bit about your refereeing experiences.
Well, it was quite an amazing run for me. I would have never thought it starting out in officiating. I started out doing, high school. I had some coaches at Hawthorne High School where I attended who went into, they worked the PC2A. And so I kind of got a taste of what officiating, what it could be. We used to have, when I was on the varsity at football team at Hawthorne, one of our coaches would always disappear on the walkthrough day because he was out officiating. And so we kind of got to find out about that world. And so when I was just kind of looking for a little spare change, I started doing that. And the first game I worked was a varsity football game at Westchester High School. I wasn't even qualified to work, but the guys that were on this crew were all my ex-coaches. They had their own little fun family crew. And so they invited me to come along, and they said, Chuck, we'll put you on the sideline. At the time, it was 4-man, and they made me the 5th guy in the crew. And they says, we're going to put you downfield, and if you blow a whistle, you better tell the referee how to enforce it. And if you don't know that, then don't call it. And so I kind of just kept quiet all night and threw my flag a couple times. They gave me a little grace, and when I did throw a flag, they didn't make me tell them how to enforce it. But they kind of wanted to put the fear of God in me to not get crazy out there. I wasn't even qualified to be on the field. I didn't get a check or anything. So that was the start of it all. And look, it ended up being a great career. And a guy in town who a lot of people know, Jim Lineberger, was a great official and umpire for many, many years. And he, when he knew that I was kind of looking around to get into refereeing at the next level, collegiate level, he said he had a house down on the peninsula on around 65th, I think, something like that, on the bay side. And he said, come on down and I'll kind of coach you up on how to go to the clinic and take the test and all that kind of stuff. And we must have spent 3 hours just talking about football with him, which was a great start for me. Anyway, I got in and, I came in what was it, 89 and, no, take it back, 81 and left in 02. So it was a good career. I had a lot of great experiences, great trips. Got to go to Japan a couple of times and Australia with games. But I remember being on the field with your son, and I remember him making a great throw to win a game. As I remembered, it was right at the end of a game. And I don't know if he was the starter at that time. I may be getting my stories confused here. But anyway, I have great respect for college quarterbacks. I mean, they think about them as kind of being pretty boys, and that guy that is the thinker on the team. There's not a tougher guy on a football field than a quarterback standing back there defenseless with these giants closing in on them, and they can make some great legal hits, just a last minute hit that's not a foul, and they can really get rattled, and they hit the ground, they pop up, and they call the next play. I mean, it's amazing. So, and he was one of the really good ones. So you should be proud.
Well, thank you, Chuck, and thanks for protecting him as well as you did. We haven't talked about this, and I haven't told you I was going to ask you this question, but something that's been on my mind, and certainly with both of you, all the years of experience that you've had, perhaps you could give some insight to this. We're in this COVID-19 situation here right now. Athletics is being talked about, from everything to canceling a full year of athletics in college athletics, going back to being normal. Long Beach City College has a unique spot when it comes to athletics. We we service and provide opportunities for student athletes who don't always come from the most advantaged backgrounds and have an opportunity to come and play and get a degree and move on and perhaps go to a 4-year school to further their academics with an athletic scholarship. I have a real concern that many of these opportunities are going to be lost for individuals, and it's going to be a real sad situation, at least in my mind. John, you've had over 40 years of experience in education. Chuck, you've had at least that much as well in education. Let's start with you, Chuck. Give me your thoughts about, do we return to play or not? How do you feel about missed opportunities that may exist if we don't come back to play in some way, shape, or form, and the kind of impact that it would have on young people's lives? Chuck, give us your thoughts on that.
Well, that's a tough one. It's a tough question because I can see both sides of it. You know, there's a social responsibility to be a good team player and do what is the right thing to do health-wise, and not only to protect the health of the athletes but the spectators. So, you know, I guess I lean towards health and in that regard, and do what, if you can figure out a way to play and minimize the health risk to the same level that the rest of the society is operating at, you know, as we're starting to open up and expose people to things. I suppose we open up athletics to some degree and people are exposed, and there's that cost benefit situation that you're dealing with there. So, but a shame for these athletes to pass through this time of their life and not be able to experience what we've experienced, you know, with our experiences in athletics, and how it opened doors for us and how it matured us and how it developed in us. I mean, I don't think there's a much better way for somebody to mature in life lessons than to be involved in athletics, where you win and you lose and you compete, and things don't always go right and the call isn't right, but you have to live with it, and that's life. And so there's so many of these experiences, I think, that you get in athletics that you will never get in a classroom. And so it's a shame for students who have that ability to play to not experience those, because those are real growth experiences. Some of the biggest growth experiences of my life was me being dealt with by coaches because I'd been a jerk in some way or another. And so I needed to be called on it and straightened out and realize the consequences. And you don't usually see much of that in a classroom. And so I hate to think about it being missed. I think this is just going to focus on football at the moment, but you know, the community college teams play in some pretty nice stadiums. They could actually have games. They don't fill those stadiums generally, or they could put a limit so they knew they weren't going to fill those stadiums, and they could have some spacing. They could set up some ways to mark bleachers or whatever, so people wouldn't be sitting next to each other, and they could possibly have games. Those are smaller crowds. You'd never be able to do that at in the PAC, but right. You could possibly get away with that in the community college.
John, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think first of all, we need to remember this too will pass. And I think the question is what do we do in the interim? And along with everything Chuck said, which were great points, I think we can't forget the educational aspect that's being affected here, totally away from the athletic venues. Because we have to remember that student athletes, the number of units they're required to take is way beyond the number of units the average student takes at a community college level or any other institution. And that translates into dollars for the systems that they're going to need to keep going forward. The reality, as we all know, is that student athletes, as they keep moving up, the numbers of opportunities diminish for them at higher level of play. So they need to prepare themselves for careers. They need to prepare themselves for the future. So I'm thinking about the maths and the sciences and the social studies and everything else that they're taking on campus outside of the classes associated with their teams. And that's what bothers me. It bothers me a lot that maybe we'll lose some of those students, athletes over a period of time. And there's always this misconception that student athletes are just, quote, jocks. No, they're smart, intelligent young men and women whose grade point average is higher. They're completing more units than the average student. They're transferring to other institutions at a higher rate. They persist in their classes and finish them better than the average student. So all of those things are important factors as the community colleges look to what's going to happen in this next period of time. And I think those in charge really do need to think about that. They need to understand the value of teams and the number of athletes that are involved and what they bring to the institution beyond all the enjoyment we get out of watching them play and all the skills and life lessons that are learned that Chuck just talked about. So that concerns me, but this will pass and we'll get back to the norm. But there's always this downswing, and it's going to be a tough one, during this COVID time.
Right. Tell us a little bit, for each one of you, the same question. Tell us a little bit about your favorite memory or an occurrence that happened at Long Beach City College, something that you would like the people who are watching this episode to know about your experiences at Long Beach City College. John, why don't we start with you?
Well, I have a lot of them. Long career, 33 years there, and a lot of them come out of my life in student affairs, where Chuck and I were on the same team there for a number of years. But I'll focus on the athletic side. First of all, I really had an opportunity to work with a lot of great athletic directors, and I mean these are as solid as people as can come. And I'm talking about Chuck in particular, and Chuck was there when we hired Mickey Davis, who brought a whole nother beautiful level of expertise and administrative skills for the women's side of athletics. And the three of us made a dang good team for a period of time there. And following that, I had an opportunity to work with Connie Sears and Larry Reisbig, God rest his soul, who was our football coach for so long, and then with Randy Tutorf. And just wonderful people who knew how to change lives of young people. And that's a wonderful memory. Beyond that, I guess the things that I'm really proud of in the area is a couple of initiatives that we started. Was a Student Athlete Success Center. That did not exist. And during that period of time, I talked with the athletic directors about trying to create a model that was more like those that would transfer the four-year level would experience, where they would have study halls to get the coaches to buy in, to work with them on their grades and keeping them eligible. We were able to bring in counselors onto the team and an athletic coordinator who could focus solely on getting and keeping our student athletes eligible and raising their grade point average. So I'm very proud of that change. And in addition, I guess just from overall programmatic view, there were 2 years in a row under our reigns where there's a national award, the Pepsi Award. And for those who want to go by the trophy case, we finished second one year and the next year first, as recognized as the best athletic program in the nation. And not just the state of California, but nation. And that was a combination of all the things we've been talking about, where you finished with your teams in statewide competition and where your teams finished with grade point averages. So it was the complete package. And I think that's what we all wanted to do, and we achieved it. So obviously very, very proud of that.
Well, congratulations. And that Success Center is spectacular and continues to be successful for student athletes as they pursue their education going forward. Chuck, how about you?
Oh, Bill, there's so many, as you know, with your experience at Loyola, there's just so many great, and a lot of them are very personal, just one-on-one with individuals, not so much team. But we had some great teams. I mean, I think for the 13 years that I was the men's athletic director, I'm kind of going to hedge a little bit here, but I think 8 of our sports, 8 of our 11 sports that we had in the men's program had won a state championship at one time or another during that period. So, those are all great great experiences, and I know all of the I know that all the major sports, the track, football, basketball, baseball, they all won, and then some of the other sports in the other categories did as well. But just so many good times. A cute little story is that I was up doing a game as a referee up in Oregon, and so I was walking out to the middle of the field for the coin toss, and the Oregon team came entering the field to take their sideline. Their captains were walking out for the coin toss, and as the team came out, this one player who had played at Long Beach City College was on the team, and he separated from the team, moving to the team area, and ran out to give me a hug at the 50-yard line as we're getting ready for a coin toss. Little embarrassing, a little, but I kid him about it when I see him. And, we just crossing paths with the athletes over the years later, and some of the memories are great.
Well, you certainly do have very good memories and have done such a great job at Long Beach City College. Tell us one thing about yourselves that very few people know. John, you first.
Wow. Well, I love movies, and I love The Shawshank Redemption, my favorite movie of all time. So many wonderful aspects in that movie. Well, let's see what people don't know. I don't know. Let's see. I won $40,000 on Family Feud. I guess that's something people don't know. But yeah, we would have won another 20, but my 92-year-old mother was a little slow on the buzzer. But that was a fun experience for us. And I've had a lot of people comment. I still see reruns, but I don't get any residuals. So that
congratulations. I didn't know that you were on Family Feud.
No,
Chuck,
maybe that's something people don't know.
Chuck, how about you?
Well, I'll throw myself under the bus here for a second and take myself back to high school, where I was kicked off 3 teams while I was going through high school for various disciplinary reasons. I won't go into the details of all of them, but they were all experiences that I was able to, in one-on-one counseling with some of our athletes, as they would maybe go through some trials and be in a little bit of hot water, and be able to sit in the office and talk to them and talk about, hey, this is not the end of the world, and this is a little bit of my path, and you can recover. You're a young man, and you can overcome this. So probably enough said on those topics.
Well, that is a true strength of community colleges, that ability to give people second chances and give them the opportunity to grow and be a safety net for them. Tough to do on Zoom. Those are conversations that take place face-to-face within a person's office, and that mentoring piece is just so important for people to grow and develop. As we end this, any last thoughts that you might have or share with our audience?
Yeah,
John?
I have one. I guess the only thing I'd like to express is that, one of the things that I really learned working around athletics for so long is the unbelievable influence coaches have on kids. I mean, it's unreal how they change lives. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. They don't see it on a daily basis, and it's just amazing. And so, I always saw our administrative responsibilities as taking care of the details and just letting coaches coach. We didn't want them worrying about their monies or transportation or uniforms or all that things. Just let coaches do what I said. Be the best mentors they can to men and women. And Chuck, having coached, you, Bill, having coached, you know what I'm talking about. The influence, they come back and thank you. You truly change lives. And I don't think coaches get enough respect for that. You hear about the wins and losses and the negative things of the very few kids that come out of their programs. But boy, the influence they have is amazing. And it's just proud to be semi-part of that and connected with it. It means a lot to me.
Chuck, how about for you?
Well, I just want to comment. You just saw there, John kind of choke up a little bit with the emotion and the sincerity of what he has to say. He's a great administrator to work with, and really considered the whole person, and was very, very creative many times in how he dealt with situations. But I go back to when I first came to the college. I was working in the activities program, and they would have these new student orientations in the student activities area. And I remember my little spiel to them was coming to a community college. And I said, I'm sure of you 20 or so that are sitting here, there's a few of you that feel like, hey, I'm not at Stanford, or I'm not at SC. I'm having to settle in Long Beach City College, and for some of them, that was the only thing that they could have done. That was my path. So it was easy for me to talk about it. I think the day after I graduated from high school, I asked myself the question, well, what about college? I mean, I was not a planner. I was only the second person in my family. I had an uncle who became a dentist in Mississippi, and I was only the second person to ever go to college in the whole clan. So I could really relate to many of the students who this was maybe a real daunting future that they were looking into, to go to college. So I remember telling them that they needed to take this opportunity, run with it. It's a great opportunity. And so I was able to share with them some of those kinds of things. And I think those were some of the more memorable moments, was to try to give them that kickoff speech to get them going.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking time out of your day. You both are icons at Long Beach City College, among many icons who have worked and coached and administered there. And so thank you for taking this time and allowing some of our fans and people who care about the Vikings and the Viking athletics program to learn a little bit about the tradition and about the history. It certainly is important to know what's going on now. It's important to have a vision towards the future. But if you don't understand and appreciate legacy, it's really difficult to know what path you're going to be going on. And so thank you for creating that legacy. Thank you for creating that tradition. And for all of you who are watching, please stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane. And as always, go Vikings.
Go Vikings.
Go Vikings.